let's go. Mental stability, yes, it belongs to me. I'll rise, I'll bloom in faith. My job, relationships, my heart, my mind, my soul. I will be made whole. It is my time to bloom. A time to bloom, a time to bloom. Oh, it is my time to bloom. A time to bloom, a time to bloom.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of A Time to Bloom, the podcast. I am your host, Chantel Biddings, licensed clinical professional counselor. This podcast will explore how your relationships, your jobs, your friends, your life experiences, and your faith impact your mental health. So today, I'm excited to have with me Dr. Jonathan Shepard. I am going to let him introduce himself, tell you about all of the millions of things that he does, and then we're going to go right into this episode discussing the importance of mental health. Dr. Shepard, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Well, first, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you, Chantel. You have come on several podcasts that I have done with Bishop C. Guy Robinson, Spirit and Mind. So thank you for the return favor. I believe in reciprocal relationships.
Yes.
So thank you. And it's good to be with your audience. And I do follow you. And I am so encouraged by all the things that you're doing, the wonderful things that you're doing to help people. And I do refer people to Chantel, even for those who are in need of mental health services. When I cannot provide those services or they're looking for somebody in the Chicagoland area, she is one of the first names that I go to. And so I am so grateful for the relationship. I am a board certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. I was certified or graduated, I should say, through the University of Illinois College of Medicine and did my residency there in adult psychiatry, and then came out to the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and did my fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry. And now I currently serve as the Chief Medical Officer of Hope Health Systems, which is the third largest provider of children's mental health services in the state of Maryland, only behind Hopkins and University of Maryland because they're big institutions, hospitals, but grateful to be working in that position. And I am an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ, since I know we're going to be talking about faith and work in so many other capacities, but just glad. I'm very passionate about mental health. I just like the fact that the Lord has allowed for me to work in ministry and medicine. So those are my two loves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And work you do. We were talking earlier about how much work you are putting in. And so as we move forward a little bit, Dr. Shepard, can you tell us why it is so important for our community just to embrace accessing the services that are available to us, accessing mental health services and taking full advantage of utilizing the services available?
Absolutely. Your mental health is your most prized possession. I do not back away from that statement. When you look at what mental health stands for, it stands for PCWC, your potential, your ability to cope, work, and contribution. So when you understand that those are the tenets of mental health, then you understand why it's so important. That's why you can't let people invade or have your mental health, your mental wellness. And so even though we were talking earlier about how much work I am doing because of the pandemic, I am now taking care of myself even better, because if I'm going to be helpful to someone else, I must be first helpful to me. And we as Black people, we are givers. That's just kind of part of our nature. We're givers. We are the people who help birth this nation out. And we are the engine behind how this nation runs. I don't care what people tell you. If
Mm-hmm.
it was not for Black people, this nation would not be here today. Again, I stand confidently on that statement. And because we are givers, we have to watch our peace. We have to watch our mental health. Don't let anybody underestimate your potential. You need to know how you are working and make sure that you are coping with the stresses of life and then making sure you're making that contribution.
Absolutely. I love that PCWC. Every time you use it, it's great. It's a great way for us to remember how important mental wellness is. And so I think a lot of times, especially in our community, we have been taught that what goes on at home stays at home.
Right.
Or if you're in the church community, you've been taught you don't need to talk about it, just pray about it. And some of those things have been so damaging to us as a people, and really held us back from addressing some generational traumas that we've experienced, some working through life stressors in a better way, and also leading to addictions and all kind of maladaptive behaviors. So what can you tell the people about the things they've learned in the past and how we want to better structure our future?
Absolutely. One of the things that I have said in this pandemic is that I am breaking the maladaptive behaviors that I have learned from leaders. I have
Mm-hmm.
made that my goal. And you out there, you need to say the same thing. Unfortunately, we have learned certain habits, we've learned certain traditions, we've learned certain um, behaviors, if you would, because that's how people were able to manage how they were handling their problems at that time. And unfortunately, many of those ways were not really productive, they were not healthy. I'll just say it like that. And we have to be careful what is passed down to us is whether we have to judge and assess whether or not was that healthy or was that unhealthy. Look at how we eat. Let's just start there. So many of us, we believe that we haven't had good soul food until we've had the fried chicken, the fish, the sweet potatoes,
Mm-hmm.
the cabbage. I mean, just keep you keep go. Now, I like all of that, but we have to understand that that type of eating is not good every single day. And if you're always used to doing it every single day, it's going to tell off on you. And that's what I'm concerned about within our communities. We've learned how to live with the trauma, and it's telling off on us. And so, what we have to do is get healed from the trauma. Is it possible to get healed? And I know you didn't ask that question. The answer is yes. And so we have to know that if there are certain maladaptive behaviors that we have seen over and over again, this is the perfect time during this pandemic, while God has given us the reset, this is the time to say no longer. Let's cut that thing off.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because, I do a lot of work with different churches going back and forth, just talking to them about the things we have been taught and how we, the pulpit and the professionals can partner together to better enrich the lives of the saints everywhere. If the counselors and the preachers can have a good conversation and build that partnership, most of our people in our pews would be so much better off. And we have to learn that we're not competing. We're
Yeah.
all working to build the kingdom.
Yep.
We just have different lanes, different
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah. Let me just jump in right there. So one of the things I've learned really over the course of this working in this area now with providing information through various forms of media, I talk about the three or the Trinity. I'm still looking for the right name for it, but we need the Trinity. I ain't talking about God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. That yes, I'm talking about we need Jesus, we need a pastor, and we need a mental health professional. Those,
Yes.
those are the three that we need. And they all work together in harmony. So thank you for saying that. We need Jesus because he brings salvation. We need a pastor because he or she provides the spiritual guidance that we do need. And then we need a mental health professional that when we are going through those distressful times and when we become disordered, we need someone who can help put us back on the lane. We will become disordered, but distressed, but we don't have to become disordered. And so that's when you need to seek out that mental health professional. And all three of these, they work together as one. It's we the ones trying to step into the lane of Jesus. Oh God.
Right.
We the ones trying to step into the lane of the pastor, or we just step in the lane of the mental health professional. God has not ordained for that. And there's no conflict, none. We're the ones who cause the conflict. I guarantee you, once you get that straight, your life will begin to be ordered and more structured. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've gone from telling people how much they need mental health services to how much they deserve mental health services. I think a lot of times people get it mixed up. You know, if I tell you you need to see a therapist, then you're thinking, oh, well, you're trying to say I have a problem or is something wrong with me. But when I say you deserve to have a safe space to talk about your life, you deserve to have someone to walk with you and help you find the solutions to what's going on, I think it kind of changes dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I'm sitting here, I got these readers right here.
Mhm.
Now, I see, but let me tell you, the longer I keep looking at this screen, I need to go ahead and put these glasses on.
Go ahead.
And I did it for effect because I know after a while, because I've been looking at the screen for so long, my eyes began to burn and I need to continue to adjust. And my optometrist told me that. It's the same thing with mental health. We've been going through long enough. And we have the pair of glasses right there next to us. We have that card. We have that person who we know who is identified as the mental health professional. You've been watching these podcasts. You know, you've been trying to bloom in your life and you just need to go ahead and bloom, but call the person. You got the help right here. And so let's do that. So I just encourage the people, let's get the help that we need. Let's stop being ashamed. I will say this though about mental health, the stigma is decreasing. What we now have to do, we have to advocate because this is the part that hurts me. People want to go out, but they don't have the health care insurance. It's such a disparity right now in healthcare insurance. So I hear you. You know, some of you all have EAP, employee assistance programs, and all they provide you is 10 sessions to deal with depression. What? You know, so that's not going to be enough. So I hear you. Don't give up. I know some of you all are saying, I'm no longer bothered by the stigma. That's great. I'm bothered by the insurance. So I just want to kind of put that in. We want to make sure that you're advocating. This is the time where you need to call your congressperson and let them know we need to be pushing for bills that allow for more transparency, allow for more sessions, allow for more funding. That's the word.
Yes.
For mental health services.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm glad you brought up the insurance piece. A lot of people don't know that you can absolutely utilize your insurance benefits if you have them for counseling services. I mean, I think when I say that to a lot of people, they're saying, yeah, I have insurance, but I didn't know I could use it for that. Absolutely. Use your benefits. Yes, EAP is limited, but it's better than nothing. Use your benefits. Especially if what we found out is that if you start with the EAP and you come into the end of your sessions, your clinician can advocate for you to have more sessions as needed, because what your employer wants to do is keep you healthy so you can keep doing your job well. So if we can advocate for it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be approved for you to keep getting the help that you need.
Absolutely. And I see that quite commonly. Let me tell you, we are going through a surge, second pandemic, if you would, because after the coronavirus pandemic settles down, there will be a ongoing and is an ongoing mental health pandemic that I believe that could be even worse than what we have encountered with the coronavirus because of so much death that has occurred, so much loss. And so this is the time. Over the last 2 weeks, Chantel, we had over 70 referrals
Mm,
just, just come in. And we've only had that one other time in the 10 years I've been working there. And that's when a mental health agency closed down that was close to us. No mental health agency closed down this time. It's a
mm.
straight organic where people are seeking and need the help. And so I know you all out there, some of you all are saying, wow, I need the help. So nothing to be ashamed of. This is the perfect time to go speak up to your employers, speak up to your family, let them know that you're in need of help. Speak up to that colleague or friend of yours that you've been wanting to talk to them about. This is the perfect time to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've talked about our community, we talked about the church. Dr. Shepherd, can you tell the men why it's so important for them to utilize mental health services? You know, there are always multiple workshops for women about self-care and taking care of yourself first and prioritizing yourself. But so often we are finding, at least the referrals that we're getting now, is a lot of men looking for services that had not been taking advantage of them before. So why is it so important for the men in our communities to access mental health services?
Absolutely. There's several reasons why. So I want to encourage every man that is listening to me, know again your potential, your ability to cope, your ability to work, and your contribution. So when you think about mental health in that aspect, it really speaks to who you are. It speaks to the women also of who you are. But since we're talking about men, we're talking about the potential that lies within you. There's some untapped skills and talents. So you got to make sure. And there will come times, men, when people will continue to try to press down and keep your potential under wraps and hold you down. I hate to say it like this, but just like George Floyd, with
Mhm.
the white cop with his knee on your neck, and so many Black men were able to identify with George Floyd, not necessarily because it happened to them, but because they saw themselves in that particular frame
Mm,
because of what they've encountered in their job, what they've encountered at home, what they encounter on a daily basis, just with the systemic institutional racism that occurs within this country. So that's why we need, as Black men, we need to make sure that we're attuned and assessing our mental health. Because if we don't, we're going to start turning to maladaptive behaviors, which we talked about earlier. That's when we start turning to addictions, whether it be with substances, whether it be with TV, whether it be with food, whether it be sex addictions. I mean, there's just so many other things that men will turn to, just like women will, but men will turn to addictions, and they will allow those addictions to play out. And we
mm,
want to make sure that we're addressing what the root cause of it is. I'm not here to blame you for what you do to ease your mind. That's not the purpose of what I'm here to do is let's identify the source, because
mm,
so many men are not productive as they could be because of that maladaptive behavior. I'm just thinking about some people who I know recently, and it tells off on you. That's the thing about it, Chantel. You think you're good, but people talking about you like, man, he used to be a good barber, but now he started drinking. I won't dare go sit up in his chair. I'm talking about some conversations people had this past week around me
yes,
from
yes.
men, and they recognize that about this particular brother. And instead of talking about him, I was like, well, let's help him. Let's see what that root cause is, because now he's going to end up losing his job, losing business, losing respect in the community. And that's what happens with our Black men. We get so pushed down by so many different areas that we find we're trying our way to continue to survive and breathe in this life. That's why we need to be able to and be in touch with what our mental health is saying about us. Because if we don't, we're going to continue to lose our men to suicide. Black men do commit suicide, let me tell
Mhm.
you. And we typically do it in a violent way. We're normally more successful in doing it because we use guns, or we jump off of bridges, or throw ourselves in front of a train or a bus or something like that. And let me tell you, I was just reading something recently. I'll be done. Black youth are still leading the way in suicides right now. They've overtaken white youth. That's been like that since 2018, and it continues to trend. Don't believe what you read in the newspapers when they say that suicide trends went down. It did go down for a certain group of people. Guess who? The Caucasians. For the whites, they went up. I'm sorry, for the blacks, they went up. Sure did. Even here in Baltimore, we had a rate during the first 3 months of the pandemic, suicides we had never seen before. Thankfully, it settled down. So Black men, that's a lot. That's such a heavy answer, Chantel. That's why I had to touch on so many different things. And so hopefully I'm able to help somebody out there with what things I just shared.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that we have to be mindful that the work that we are doing is life-saving work. It is so important. Not only that we do the work in behind the closed doors in the counseling sessions or in the psychiatric appointments, but also the work just to let people know it's okay if you're not okay, but there is help for it.
Yeah. I said that 2020, I was functioning, but I was not okay. I was functioning, but I was not okay. I had encountered losses. My grandmother died at the end of 2019, went into 2020 with grief, then went in, got sick, maybe even had the coronavirus, truthfully, because I had never get sick like that for 10 days. And it really weighed on me and affected my productivity. Then as soon as I was bouncing back, my 7-year-old nephew died from a 6-day illness, just rocked my family. And then the pandemic struck. And then I was told that I would have to cut my hours in half, Chantel, still keep my caseload, but cut my hours in half, and that my salary would be cut. They didn't tell me how many months it was going to be cut, but my salary was cut for 5 consecutive months. I was functioning, but I was not okay. So some people are like, Dr. Shepherd, wow, I never would have known that about you. And some of you all can even identify with what I'm saying. And yet I'm still here. That's the purpose of me saying that. Because when I recognized that I was not functioning, but I was not okay, I understood that I'm a faith believer. I had to start reading the word even more. I started reading my Bible. I started reading other books that will supplement the word. There's nothing wrong with that. And you need to do that. And I began to just consume so much material. I began to share with people. I was more open and transparent so that I could get the help that I needed. And by the end of December 2020, I found myself in a better state than I really have in pretty much most of my life, truthfully. And so that's how I've been able to continue up this rigorous path of being able to help people, because I recognized when I was not functioning at my optimal, and I was, functioning, but I wasn't okay. We have to stop and say, wow, I'm not okay, and be all right with that.
Absolutely.
And when you do that, that's when the resiliency that we all have, children are resilient. Black people are resilient, okay? Don't tell me we're not resilient. We've been up 400 years and they still can't kill us. All right? Who's the they? Whoever you want to put in there is the they, all right?
Exactly. Well, fill in the blank.
And we're not going nowhere, all right? But let me tell you about resiliency, is that when you are here and you fall, and we all will fall, but the thing I love about resiliency, you will bounce back at a level that's higher than when you first fell. That's what resiliency can do. But you gotta want to get the help so you can bounce back and you come back higher.
Absolutely. Yes, we are a resilient people. And I love that you said the bounce back is always higher. So you will always come back stronger. We come back better. We come back wiser after we've taken the time to take care of ourselves, to get the help that we need, to share with other people. I know my therapist can probably attest that therapists are probably the worst patients to have. But I have absolutely utilized my therapist throughout this entire pandemic as I was finding myself in the same space. And that's what I keep telling other people is that the therapist and the psychiatrist, we didn't get a handbook on navigating through the pandemic.
That's right.
You know, we were doing the best we could, experiencing the same things, same losses, the same social injustices. We kept going, trying to take care of ourselves while we take care of everyone else. And so we have to make sure that we prioritize ourselves first as individuals, as a community, and then we can impact the rest of our world as we go that way. So Dr. Shepherd, thank you so much for joining me. You know, we could go on and on with this conversation, but I thank you so much for joining me tonight on this episode for A Time to Bloom. You've been most helpful. Any last words?
Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. We were just scratching the surface here. We have to do this again. I'll just tell people, this is how you face the crisis in your life, GRR, with grit, responsibility, and resiliency. Face it with courage. That's grit. Remember your responsibility. This is not the time to drop the ball. You still have to be responsible, even though you may not feel like it. And then remember that in the end, resiliency lies inside of you. And when you come back, you have the capacity to come back even greater. And I do believe that you're alive for this season. You have survived what 500 and almost 70 some thousand people, it might even be more than that now, did not do. And my heart goes out to every family member who has suffered. I've actually now, Chantel, and I hate to digress, but I have the highest number of patients on my caseload now with COVID-19. Unbelievable. I had to wait to 14 months after the pandemic to see how it's affecting 20, 30, and 40-year-olds. It's amazing. But let me tell you, even in all that, they're still alive, you're still here, and you're able to come back, and we'll come out of this better. So those are my parting words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have been telling my patients, you have survived 100% of your worst days. So you're going to make it. So we're still here. We're still pushing on, and we will absolutely win. We've already read the end of the story. So we know we have the victory, and we will win. So again, thank you everyone for joining for this episode of A Time to Bloom. I am Chantel Biddings, licensed clinical professional counselor, and I will speak with you again on next week.
Let's go. Mental stability, yes, it belongs to me. I'll bloom in faith, my job, relationships, my heart, my mind, my soul. I will be made whole. It is my time to bloom. A time to bloom. A time to bloom. Oh, it is my time to bloom. A time to bloom. A time to bloom.